Or I'd be messing with Caleb, and Caleb would like hit me one time, and Caleb would get in trouble.
And
Yeah.
he'd start crying, and I'd get in trouble.
And then they would go. Then y'all would go and share the same room willingly at night, like y'all were like friends.
Well, that's because Caleb was afraid of the dark, but that's another
but also
story.
y'all were friends. Y'all were like, you gonna watch a movie and go
We
to
still
bed,
share a room at night.
Y'all
Yeah,
still
y'all snuggle at night now.
Y'all do still share a room.
And
We don't share a room.
I know y'all are across.
But
share a
y'all
bathroom?
are
Yeah, they share
y'all,
bathroom.
y'all share the same
Caleb
upstairs
at like
area
2
in the
a.m. He'll be like, "Will, are you awake?"
You wanna come cuddle?
What's that, you?
I peek my head in the door, and I'm like,
Will, I had a nightmare.
Welcome to the Quartercast, Standing Firm in Today's Culture, episode 10.
10
Whoop, whoop.
episodes.
We have hit double digits.
We got
in
these
the number of
crazy people together for 10 episodes,
Wow.
which is pretty insane.
It's pretty simple. It's no big deal. It's just make one phone call, and everybody goes, "Hey, how quick
We'd love
can we?
to,
When
yeah.
can we? Yes." And
Adam's
and
automatically available. to
Adam, our producer's
produce.
ready to go. He just has so much
Shiloh's
spare time
babysitters.
trying to find something to do with it.
Them waiting for me to tell her when the next
Oh,
one is.
yeah.
Oh yes, oh yes.
I think we should be like Mark Levin and call Adam Mr. Producer.
Mr. Producer. So here's what's good. We just hinted to the fact that it might be sometimes quite an adventure to get all six of us together. And then our episode today is going to focus on conflict. So
And Caleb is glad y'all are here.
yes.
Yeah.
Thrilled.
Super glad y'all are here.
The rest of us, hey, you're gonna watch it or you're not. But
Yeah.
Caleb
Caleb's
is
glad
pumped
you're
that
here.
you are here.
we are pumped that you're here and checking it out. So conflict, I'm going to start it off with this. Conflict, we live in a society today that
Say that one more time.
Society. I think probably always the
Studio.
goal of the reserved, more chill personality styles and people on the planet are wanting to avoid conflict, averse to it, don't want to have to experience it, live
Absolutely.
through it,
Like me.
go through it. But
No
and then you have
conflict
some-
is good conflict.
yeah, you have
Really?
some outgoing styles that kind of bring some conflict at times, and might consider that just a natural part of life.
Like
but,
Will.
So
Yeah, like me.
So
Will and Mom.
and in
I
this
don't- I don't-
blend,
Abby doesn't love it either.
as we covered the last few episodes, we talked about our style in the disc blend. You learned a little bit about that. We referenced conflict, but we want to do just an in-depth look at it a little bit. And
Yeah.
to frame it up, that I want to say that conflict is not a sign of unhealthy relationship.
100%
I
agree
believe with all
now.
my heart, and that's based on reading Scripture
Yeah.
and paying attention from Genesis all the way through to Revelation, that there just is going to be conflict in relationship. And because
Well,
especially
Jesus engaged in conflict
he started
without
conflict.
sin. He started
He
conflict without sin. So
At times,
there is a way to
yes.
do that.
Yep. And so conflict and what all is involved in it is a part of most healthy relationships. And the key is to learn how to have healthy conflict resolution. So we're talking about conflict, but ultimately we want to end this thing on how do we get conflict resolution working in a healthy way. So y'all throw some ideas. First of all, conflict. Y'all real quickly, let's go around and everybody say when you hear the word conflict, what your first thought is. Is that, oh gosh, horrible? Or do you go, no big deal, part of life? What do you think, Caleb?
Run and hide.
Yelling.
Yeah, think of yelling, but does it make you upset, or do you think that's just a part of life? What do you think, honestly?
I think it's just a part of life.
Just a part of life. Will, what about you?
Go hide under the bed.
Okay, avoid it. Oh gosh, this is bad, right? Sophie, what about you?
Yeah, that's right. Put yourself in a complete position of lack of health to avoid conflict at all costs.
All right, so whatever it takes, avoid it. What about you, Adam?
I just think no.
You
Just no.
No.
just avoid it. Let's
No,
not do conflict.
Let's clarify. This is not where we stand today.
No.
But it's like
But it's our
internal
internal
reaction to it.
All right, what about
Yeah,
you,
yeah,
Logan?
yeah.
What about you?
I like it.
You kind of bring it
Oh,
on.
good gravy. Like,
But also, I don't like when things don't feel good. So
Okay.
most of my embrace of conflict is let's deal with it so everything feels warm and fuzzy again.
Okay.
And then the older I get, I'm just deal with it.
Okay.
We're gonna
So
handle
you'll
it.
kind of bring it on. But here, and it's funny. Now think about this, because I don't mind experiencing conflict, and I will initiate conflict in order to try to make things better, because I
Right.
think it's a part of health, producing health. But I do not like it when conflict is happening, when my my viewpoint is being completely disregarded,
Yes.
then I don't like
Or
conflict,
disrespected.
which is really interesting. 'cause
Well,
I'm willing
really,
to bring
it's
it
about
on.
them like not understanding that they're wrong. So,
Yeah, clearly.
so it's like my job to like
Bring it on
You need to
and
understand.
explain.
You just need to understand that you're wrong.
Isn't that good?
We're
All
gonna
right,
fight
so-
for as long as it takes for you to admit that I'm right.
Yeah, we'll do this as long as it takes for you to cry, Uncle. You're
That's
right.
right. Yeah.
All right. So you've heard from the group kind of what our different views on just initial responses, knee-jerk reactions are to conflict. Now let's talk a little bit about maybe some stories, some examples, and then talk about how to get to healthy resolution of conflict. Because I don't want us to.
Or how we grew up seeing conflict modeled for us.
Yeah.
Resolution or lack thereof,
Yeah.
just bending until you just go, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
And for me, I grew up, I saw some conflict where my dad was, I hesitate to use the word the aggressor. Like, that's not a good word to pick here, but he was definitely the dominant in the argument. He would raise his voice. I don't remember if Mom did that really. I think I was more like her. Like, she would get to a point where she had enough, and then she would just let it fly. But mostly I saw there wasn't a lack of conflict. Like, if you didn't like something, you just went on the silent thing for several days or however long you needed to
Prove your point.
prove your point.
So you might have
Yeah.
gotten
That
quieter
I'm
versus
unhappy.
loud.
I'm unhappy, therefore I will give you the silent treatment.
Okay.
Which is so mature.
And the razor
I'm
blades
unhappy,
just start to
but
come
we're
out of the
civil.
velvet.
Yeah.
What'd you say?
I said I'm unhappy, but things are civil. Where
Civil,
Yeah.
sort of. I'll kill you in your sleep,
Yeah.
but I'm going to smile at you in the daytime.
Yeah.
So I
That
grew
is
up,
true.
I grew up
That's
in a
not
house.
messy. That's just
Just,
like
well, it's-
I grew up
That
in a
anybody
house where
knows
we were
about.
loud.
Silent
We were
voice.
loud when we were happy. We were loud when we were mad. We were loud. The Quarter family's a loud family, and so
Yes.
as you know, my dad, as a pastor, Mom as a preacher's wife, my mom could hold her own with my dad,
oh, yeah.
and she would tell him, "Yes, Dewey, I've had enough, no more." And
Can we
and-
tell that story? Real quick?
Yes,
No,
please.
we got-
It's
No.
so funny.
good.
No, come on, it takes 2 seconds.
All right, one of y'all can do it.
So
real
we were
quick.
eating dinner with Mimi and Papa before he went to be with Jesus.
So this is Mimi and Papa are Chris's parents,
Is
so
there-
Abby's grandparents.
Amazing, and we're
just my grandparents.
No, and Logan's too. But I'm just saying, like,
No, I meant Caleb.
well, okay, sorry.
So anyway,
Something
this,
else?
I don't know how interesting this
I'm
is
just gonna
to,
shut
to
up
you,
now.
listener, but anyway, we're all eating dinner, and Mimi is making something, and she said, "Oh, hey, I'm gonna put basil in that," and Papa goes, "Don't put basil. I don't like basil."
He
Jackie.
said, Jackie, don't
I don't
put
like
basil,
basil.
in mine. And she said, do it. I put basil in everything you eat. And that was that. Nobody said anything else. And Papa ate
I
it.
don't like basil.
And apparently, Papa found out that he didn't mind basil as bad as
Well,
as he
because
thought.
the alternative was Papa could fix his own supper.
Oh,
Right.
That's right. That's good. So the conflict in my house was loud, and we as a family would say pretty loud and direct things to each other, and then we were fine.
And
Now,
what
the
I
only
would call
one,
brutal things to each
the-
other,
Yeah.
even, but y'all became
the
okay.
only one that probably wasn't as comfortable with is my younger brother Casey.
Yeah.
But Corey and I, my sister, and Mom and Dad, that's kind of how we rolled. I think Casey, we might have done Will's response to a lot of it, wanting to hop
Hide under the bed.
But so we were
Or
loud.
make
Conflict was a
humor.
part
Yeah.
of it.
Everybody, let's laugh.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it felt like it was resolved, but ultimately there was a lot that wasn't really resolved because
True.
there wasn't a coming to a
Like
an-
disagreement.
to disagreement on stuff. Sometimes it was
So
just
y'all would
that
be
hey, this
okay
guy was
to
gonna
agree to
do-
disagree.
in a lot. Well, I think that's would go on a lot. It's
that
just
would
it was a
irk me.
variation.
Or agree that we're just not going to talk about it
Yeah,
anymore.
or we said what we think, and that's it. And so very interesting. What's coming up in y'all's mind? So our 3 kids, you grew up in a house where it was super smooth, very little conflict.
Yeah.
And
I just like being under the bed. And
Yeah. I
And then
definitely
Random times.
didn't leave the second I had car keys anytime that y'all got in an argument.
yeah, so you would take off. Peace out. I'm going to Hannah's.
Yep.
Yep.
And I think you went to your room a lot before you could drive. Like you would
I
be up
did, but
in
I
your
could still
room.
hear y'all because I was above y'all's room.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, not that it was ever limited to just our room,
Yeah,
but
right.
still.
I didn't really. So in my house, I really don't remember like seeing my parents fight very much. I think they made a point to like do it in their bedroom or where I just can't. I don't really remember
Well,
a ton of that. But I would say with us initially, like when we first got married, I was not healthy and like not okay and like hiding a lot of stuff. So like I didn't want to do conflict. It was like conflict was really bad because that meant that she found out.
Yes.
So I was just trying to avoid all of those
Being
things.
known.
And then instead of actually like resolving anything, I would just say whatever I needed to say
Yeah.
for you to like shut up and get off my back.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
So I would think that things were good.
she'd be like, oh yeah.
I'd be
And
like,
I'm
we're on the same page again. Things are fine.
and then we would have the same fight like a month later,
Yeah.
and I'd be like, I don't remember any of that.
very
You're
interesting.
crazy.
Very interesting. All right. What about you two? What do y'all think? What's coming to mind about the grow up environment conflict? Because it was a part of y'all's world.
Okay, so
pretty
we're
quick.
I mean-
opposite though. Note that we were the opposite of. I saw y'all fight. I feel like every fight or heard it,
Yeah.
and then he's not. Doesn't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah.
a
Okay. So
single-
great point.
Yeah.
Because you guys were like, hey, you're going to see us fight because that's part of real life.
Well, I guess.
I
I mean, they're-
was. I
yeah,
really
I didn't
was.
think we
Sophie
should-
was not that way.
I didn't like to fight in front of kids,
Yeah.
but
To be fair, I
I
wasn't there. So
Yeah.
I'm just saying anyway.
Yeah. So it would be interesting to hear what you two think.
Always avoided it. Never wanted to be around it. Didn't want to hear it. As a little kid, would go hide under mom and dad's bed whenever there was conflict. I mean, the most like recent like actual conflict I can really remember was 9th grade basketball, where I did not play to my capabilities at all, and I knew that, and Dad clearly knew that, and so I hated being in the car with him after a basketball game. I like hated it.
Would beg to ride home
Yep,
with mom.
would try to go home with mom, try to go to somebody else's house.
You better
We're going
crack-
to the same house, by the way. Like they weren't
Yeah, I mean,
separated.
it was just the
Mom
car.
would put me in the car.
Mom would be like, Dad wants to talk to you.
Hey, Will, you better block out or I'm going to whip your hiney.
There was a definite strong push from me to both boys in their competition, and it was like something that I think I felt like I was losing ground and trying to help them accomplish, and so they got shoved or pushed by me. Not shoved
It
physically,
was
but
fear.
pushed.
It was fear. I think that they wouldn't. you
Yeah,
know,
that they were going to miss out on some super capabilities they had,
Yeah.
and it resonated real heavy in me. So there was fear motivating some of that.
If you didn't know this, Will and Caleb are both excellent athletes.
Oh.
Now, neither of them have ever won a district free throw championship. I have. 2007 Santa Rosa County district free throw champion in the house. But they are really good athletes, so don't let them fool you.
What do you think, Caleb?
Yeah, grew up with a lot of conflict with hearing you guys argue, or you and Abby, or you and Will, or me and whoever else.
Me and you.
Me and Abby.
Did
Yeah.
y'all?
Oh, yeah.
Did we fight?
Oh,
See,
gosh.
okay, this
A
now
lot.
now we're getting into the part of the story where emotionally I was so not
my gosh.
present that I don't really have a lot of memories of
we
y'all
would
fighting.
hit each other.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, yeah, I do.
I mean, there's
we-
baseball
Abby
bats.
was
Okay.
manipulative to the point where he threw a football at her, and then what did you do?
I put black
She
eyeshadow around
feigned
my
death.
eye
Yeah.
and made him think he gave me a black eye.
I would call her names.
Yep.
Oh,
What did you
definitely.
say to my wife?
Yeah. Yes.
We would, yeah,
Okay,
we would
okay,
duke
some
it
of this
out.
is coming back. Okay.
We were not friends for
So
a
they
very
were
long
they were
time.
3 years apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so they were fighting.
And you didn't want to be told what to do. And I was the one in charge most of the time because I'm
Yeah.
the oldest.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
And if y'all had conflict with Will, I feel like
I was
y'all
bullied.
were always wrong, and Will was
Yes.
the baby.
He was the
He's just
true
a
baby.
He was the
Yes.
baby, and so,
So
I
it
felt
was
like
up to
y'all.
us not to let it get
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
and so I disagreed with that too, and so then we would have
Just
conflict.
give Will what he wants.
Yeah,
No.
just right.
Pretty much.
Nothing has changed.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Aw, baby Will.
And,
No,
it's interesting that y'all both feel that way. It's so wild.
Oh my gosh, I got
Yeah.
in trouble so many times because of what Caleb and Will would tell you, and you would tell me I was the oldest and needed to set the standard for how the day
Okay.
was going to go.
Isn't that wild?
And I was like, "Oh, cool, you tell them that."
Or I'd be messing with Caleb. And Caleb would like hit me one time. And Caleb would get in trouble.
And
Yeah.
he'd start crying, and
Yeah.
I'd get in trouble.
And then they would go. Then y'all would go and share the same room willingly at night. Like y'all were like friends.
Well, that's because Caleb was afraid of the dark, but that's another
Well, but also
story.
y'all were friends. Y'all were like, you want to watch a movie? And
We
go to
still
bed?
share a room at night.
Y'all still snuggle at night now.
Y'all do still share a room.
And
We don't share a room.
I know y'all are across.
But
share a
y'all
bathroom?
are,
Y'all do share a bathroom.
y'all share the same.
Caleb
upstairs
at like
area
2
in the
a.m. He'll be like, "Will, are you awake?"
You want to come cuddle?
Was that you?
I peek my head in the door and I'm like,
Will, I had a nightmare.
Stop.
So
The way
for
I-
real,
the
what was
way
the
I-
effect of that? What's your mindset? Let's start talking about what the effects of those kind of
Yeah,
things we're
that's
talking
good.
about are in our adult current life. Because now, and then the last thing we're going to do is talk about how we resolve conflict, not
In a
staying
healthy
in
way.
in a duplicate the broken side of what we're talking
True.
about.
I mean-
so let's get there.
I'm so glad we can laugh about our stories, but I guess we do need to like show what we do today that's actually healthy.
Yeah. So what? How did that influence you as a 26-year-old adult, Caleb? Do I need to come back to you?
maybe.
We have a pretty good
Yeah,
story
share
on
it.
conflict
Okay, well, I'll
from
just-
this week. I mean,
Well, yeah, but I do want to say, so when Logan and I were dating, we were like the best of friends. I mean, we still are, but we had very little conflict
Dad
in
and I
our
too.
relationship.
Yeah, believe it or not.
And
Very different.
then it was like when we got engaged and we had to postpone, that's when everything just hit the fan. And that was when I had to decide, am I going to deal with what I now know of like the aftermath of the lying, or
well, and we
Are
had
we gonna-
mentors in our
we did.
life.
Yes,
that-
and who really challenged me in that.
Very good point,
Perfect
too.
mentors
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
the both of us. And,
because we've talked. I don't know if we've talked about this on the podcast.
You
but-
did about the mentors.
Oh, okay.
And the
What
perspective
about
they
the
gave you.
lying and the
Yeah.
postponing the wedding?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So anyway, so I had thought about just not getting married. I was in that position, and my mentor challenged me of like, all right, so you can do that. You've not made a holy vow. You are in the position of, if you're going to call it quits, nobody's going to blame you. There's no consequences to that. But if you go and find someone else, they're going to have stuff that you're going to have to deal with. That's not just going to be that you're going to find someone else and everything's, bliss for the rest of your life. Like, what Logan's dealing with now. So now you get to decide, are you going to deal with Logan's stuff?
Crap or somebody else's
Or
crap.
are you going to go deal? And so that was the first time that I pretty much had been challenged to conflict and made the decision to actually do it.
Yeah, that's a great
Because
example.
I wanted to be with him.
You
Yeah.
wanted
And
his
still
crap.
do. I did
Yeah.
want his
Wanted.
crap.
That's
And
good.
Him and all his crap.
Through that, I think in that decision, of course, there were plenty of times that Satan was like, are you sure that you still want this, even after we got married? And with my personality, I'm pretty much stubborn enough to do the right thing no matter what. Almost to a fault.
Even if it kills you.
Yeah. And so I was like, well, no backing out now. So when we would get in arguments, I was up there with you of like, nope, let's actually do. I would yell. I figured out that if I would yell, it would grab his attention, which isn't healthy. But it was like, I wasn't one to yell. And then if I did, he was like, oh my gosh, you're serious about this.
Yeah.
And so
When Abby says
when I say words,
the F word, it's gotten real.
Logan's like, oh, okay.
Okay, we're really doing
there.
this. Yeah.
And I mean faith.
Yeah.
Faith. Yes, of course
Yeah.
you do.
And so there's things that y'all have learned,
Frick.
and then you went through. There was some duplication of what you were dealing with growing up. If you'll listen behind
Yeah.
the scenes, so Logan is doing things that cause conflict, but then when it's time to deal with them, Logan is not wanting to deal with them. Abby, somebody who grew up in an environment not wanting the conflict, that was full of conflict, has learned to push the limits beyond what her comfort would be,
Yeah.
so that you
It's
could
like, I made
initiate.
this decision,
So
we're
you can
gonna fix this.
initiate,
Yeah.
But-
initiate through connection again. And so there's this crazy blend that needs to probably happen in a lot of cases.
Yeah, I
but
agree.
conflict is going to be in the pathway to true, authentic
Right.
connection with
Yeah.
another human, because
Yep.
they're different in all cases.
Me and
Logan wanted to share something that happened this week. What were you saying there?
Go
Y'all
ahead.
go.
You go ahead.
I was gonna talk. So like, with me avoiding conflict, I avoid it with my family because I'm not getting out of that. There's like no one's going anywhere. Like I'm here. Like we're there. Like we'll figure it out eventually.
You don't really avoid it though.
With your
It's like-
family?
I mean, I've
Like
started,
he'll straight up argue with like
But he's saying it just doesn't give him the warm fuzzies. He doesn't want to do it.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I don't want to do it, but like
You'll initiate plenty with that mouth conflict. Now, do you think you know that?
I think he's not knowing sometimes that he's initiating.
But it's not
Yeah, like-
intended, correct?
But with me and Eliana, which this is one thing, is like when we first started dating, I would not, I would avoid it at all costs.
Okay.
Like just didn't want to we'll figure it
Because
out.
if we do this, she might leave.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, pretty
like
much
there was
thinking
a
that.
Out of fear,
thing.
yeah.
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 But now, she's literally she's like, you have to tell me what you're thinking. Like, I have to know what you're thinking and where we can work through. And I'm not saying we argue all the time or anything, but like when we do argue, like I am there. Like
You're in it.
You're present.
Well, I mean,
for it.
that's what I mean. Through conflict, like we have growth, and you know,
We do.
if you're doing it in a healthy way, like you ultimately understand each other better.
Right.
Like, I mean, just this week, I mean, going through. So Shiloh just had her first birthday. You guys know that, listener. You may not. And Abby had her first full morning out a couple weeks ago, and she's just she's a stay-at-home mom. So she is with Shiloh all day.
24/7, yes.
Yeah, I am on call for that little one.
Doing the breastfeeding thing,
Yeah.
all of it. So she's kind of been on empty. And
I didn't really realize I was on empty until I had this morning out, and it was like I had a little bit of extra time before I had to come home, and I was like, I don't know what to do with myself. I haven't been without a small person for a year now.
So she made returns to Target.
yeah, I was productive instead of being able to go.
Well, that's very
And-
true to your
I wanted to-
personality too,
yeah,
though.
but
you know.
but I needed to relax. I needed to
Yeah.
to be okay with going to sit at a coffee shop.
Right. So anyway, and I was like, hey, I'm never one to just say something. I have the best intentions in the world, but I don't always have the best follow through.
Yeah.
How about that?
Yeah.
True to your personality.
Very much
Yes,
same.
yeah.
So I'm like, hey, I'm going to let you do that every week. And then the next week at work, I had literally the busiest week I've had yet. And I mean, I'm talking there was one morning I left at 7 a.m. I got home at 7:30 p.m.
Yeah.
And she's like, hey, so beginning of this week, she's like, I'm tapped. I'm on E. I'm feeling a little depressed. What are we doing? What are you going to, you
We've
told
also
me.
been in a regression, so I've not been getting
sleep regression.
Oh, and sleep deprivation is
yeah,
no joke.
It's just it just makes everything.
It's a
that
form of
much harder.
torture, actually, for the enemy.
So needless to say, we had a pretty good fight.
Yeah.
Some intense fellowship, as
Yep.
they say at church.
Yeah.
That's what Papa would say. That's what Papa would say.
and
fellowship.
and we were not good. And then 30 minutes went by, I think, and we sat down and something that speaks to Abby, we talked about it in our disc, is that I'm go, go, go. I talk at a loud volume, and Abby is slow, slow, slow. So I just sat down. Hey, what's going on? And then we addressed everything.
Yeah.
Made sure that she felt heard. I owned up to my stuff because I had done things wrong and dropped some balls. And then you had a girls' night that night.
Mm-hmm.
Had a morning to yourself yesterday, and you didn't make Target returns.
Nope.
And
And then we
we-
had a date night. So
So-
I am
Very
my
nice.
tank is
Logan
full.
Logan booked the babysitter.
He did.
Oh
Yeah.
my!
There was
Well,
Very
and
good.
shout out to Marley Bob because
Yes.
she's the best.
She-
She's
Yeah.
babysitting right now.
I know.
Yes.
So what
she
you-
can babysit me. I trust her that much.
So what you hear in that is you hear there's an adapting going on for there to
That's so
be
key.
for there to be healthy conflict resolution. So
True.
in all cases, it's not a concession of their way always.
Yes.
It's not a concession of the other person's way always, because then
Yeah.
that's not resolution. But both parties are now being heard. Both parties are seeking to understand versus insisting that they be understood.
Yeah.
Now, it's okay to want to be understood.
That is okay,
But the
right.
priority needs to be seeking to understand. Because if
True.
you that requires an I'm responsible, healthy attitude. I need to know why Caleb thinks and feels the way he does, or I can never self-control myself to not keep making him feel offended, hurt, disrespected, just using Caleb as an example. And so there's things that you just heard out of Logan and Abby that's a part of all the resolution. What do you guys, anything that y'all are thinking related to that?
I
Or
want
Sophie?
y'all to answer, but I want to say I think getting to the root of the issue and asking a lot of questions there is a really, really big deal, especially like in a marriage relationship or a serious dating or engagement relationship. Because like I had a conversation with a friend, and there were some fear things that she had, like real fear stuff that was causing some issues in their relationship. And the longer that we talked, she actually pinpointed it to something that had happened in her childhood that was really traumatic to her, and her response was, if I control, like I can mitigate. And that from
The
her
feeling of
childhood,
loss.
yeah, the feeling of loss, and it was playing out in her marriage relationship. And even though there could even be reasons that she would feel like she needs to control, still the doing so was wreaking havoc
Yeah.
in their relationship. And so just narrowing it down to not just this is how I feel, but really getting with God and saying, Holy Spirit, will you reveal to me, why
Show
do I
me.
feel, show me me, why do I feel this way,
And so the self-awareness side of it's critical for healthy conflict resolution. The self-awareness key that we talk about all the time, literally all the time with couples. And we have to be in practice ourselves to talk to other couples about it. Because I'm 56, still growing in self-awareness. And I won't stop till I die or Jesus comes back. Because I don't ever get to check that box. Because there's new yesterdays every new day. There's new past to make sure that the past is all redeemed in the way that God wants it to be, that the memories are framed in light of God's truth, in light of loving other people, in light
Yeah.
of things that really matter. And so the self-awareness is a real big key that Sophie just described when she was kind of referencing a friend. And when we can start thinking about what we're thinking about and then why we think the way we do, because a lot of conflict is going to come up because somebody else has done, said, or not done or said something that has now made us feel lost, lack.
anger.
Well, and a lot of
Anger,
times,
yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of times, like in marriage, especially like when you find yourself in these cycle, like these, I've read it or heard it be called a pain cycle, or a peace cycle. but
Crazy
like,
cycle.
Yeah, I mean, but it's like you're fighting for your own side, and it's like you're both fighting for your own way, and just like you say all the time, like, hey, marriage, you're gonna have to die. So, but that's, and Caleb mentioned in a previous episode about like taking up your cross daily. Like you're gonna have to, like, to really get to the resolution piece, somebody has to just give up. Like
And care about the other person's
right,
heart
and
more than
I'm
their
not
own.
fighting for my way anymore. Like I'm tired of it. So
I'm fighting for our
Yeah,
way
like-
in a marriage.
So it's like, do you want to be right or
Or get this right.
yeah?
Which is
Yeah.
us, the us,
Right.
whatever the relationship dynamic is that anybody's experiencing conflict with.
Yeah.
Thoughts, other thoughts related. What's been triggered when you think about the self-awareness piece?
I think I've seen Caleb maybe in the past year become more and more and more self-aware. And I've seen him as a mom do conflict differently. Like I've seen him seek for resolution and not just to be understood in a situation. I mean, I can think even back when Caleb was younger and he'd have a job and he didn't like something about it. He just, not show up or whatever. I mean, I was thinking about working at Spring Valley Beach and stuff. Yeah. I mean, just like, you get mad and you'll tell somebody off and be done with them kind of thing. Like, and I've seen you mature in self-awareness and actually, even in our family too, be able to bring things to the table which are negotiating skills rather than forcing your way skills.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you feel that way, but as a mom, I've seen that be
I would
evident
agree
in your
with
life.
her. What do you think?
I think I could do better with this one right here.
Sure.
Yeah, Will's probably sitting there going,
Because-
wait a minute, were you weren't at my house. Okay, sorry.
because I feel like I now understand Dad's position in while we were growing up. Just his heart that's for him,
Yes,
and is
yes.
speaking from being through
Having been
things-
further down the road.
Right.
Right.
Speaking from wisdom and knowledge on the things that we think we have it all figured out. And so when it comes to work or it comes to relationship or when it comes to anything else, if Will is not listening or is arguing with me, I'm like, I can get
challenging.
very
I'm gonna
frustrated.
pound you.
Yeah, like Like, dude, I've literally told him, I don't know how many times, shut up. Like, stop talking, because I know what I'm talking. Like, I feel like it's different in that scenario, and I'm one when with that scenario, like I need you to understand what I'm trying
That
to
I've
say.
got 7 years on you on this,
Yeah.
at least.
Yeah, and like,
And thankfully, some experiences that Will doesn't
Yeah,
have
right.
that we don't
Yeah.
want
Well,
him
the
to have.
cool
right?
thing that Caleb's saying is just coming from loving Will.
Deeply,
You love him, and
like would take
and
a
you're
bullet
so
for him. right?
yet you can't control him.
Yeah.
And that is absolutely
Maddening.
one of the
Yeah.
most challenging things
Infuriating.
in
Yeah.
the world.
Yes.
And as a father,
Will will
now
get to
that
experience
we
this
can
in his
go
life
back-
too.
Yeah.
We
at
can
some
go
point.
back to what we just said earlier in the podcast, because learning how to manage that tension it's never ending. Like, we're still doing it because we're still all up in each other's space because we love each other and are engaged in life together.
Well, and we're not
so-
afraid to do life together anymore either, and that's a really
Yeah.
blessed place to be.
Yeah.
I was
But
gonna say.
Say that. Say what?
I was gonna say I've recognized that I'm more aware of who I'm in conflict with. So like,
That's
and
very
that,
good. Well, that's good.
Big deal.
Yeah.
And so that's why with Will, I'm like, I need you to stop talking and like listen to me, because
as hard as I can.
because I'm right, and I really am most of the time, and but then like in a relationship, like that's different, and there's different viewpoints that are coming in. There's different paths that
There's
are
a
coming
hierarchy here that you don't have
Yes.
in marriage.
Yeah.
You know.
And then,
Yeah.
So to
and then
speak.
with Dad, of course, I would like to think I've become more respectful in most times.
Interactions.
Most
Yeah, I
interactions.
see that. I do believe you have.
I would
There's been a
agree.
few times that we,
Well, we all
just-
fall off the wagon. There's no doubt about that. So.
Yeah.
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 So
What you think, Will?
I would say definitely most of our arguments are me being in the front seat, or passenger driver, pretty much. Just being like, oh, why are you like driving so close? Why are you getting pissed off at this person? Why are you?
So look, as Will's your wife.
Yeah, you're getting the practice. What's so
do
good?
you gasp in the car like,
No.
that is not most of our arguments. Most of our arguments are like, for example, Will
You're about
got
to get a front
I
row
can't
seat
even
to an
remember. I
argument.
can't even remember the last one.
That's right.
This
Will,
is like how
different
much,
style.
this is how
Will-
much it meant to me. I can't remember what we did.
Okay.
Will got so we worked together. Will got asked
They
to
work together, they live
retake.
together.
He took pictures of a piece of paper,
great.
and he took it
Took them
where
amazing.
there's tons of stuff in the background. It's not close up front with the paper. So Micah,
how
being-
dare you?
Yeah.
Because I've never
Some-
done that.
So somebody else they work with
Yes.
ask him to redo
All
it.
right, wait. Well, let me explain my
No,
part.
no. Let me
Shut
tell
up.
the story. Let me tell the story.
Can you guys resolve this?
First-hand witness.
I want to watch.
Micah asked him to send the pictures again. So Will takes pictures and sends them again. And I look at the pictures because we're in the work group text, and I say, "Are you serious? You literally did almost the exact same." He was like, "It's not a big deal. It's fun." I was like, "Bro, he's going to ask you to take pictures. Go
This
ahead,
is personality.
go ahead
Yes.
and take pictures again." He was like,
thorough.
"I don't need
Yes.
to take
Be-
pictures
Well,
again." I was
I
like,
think
"Take
it's
the pictures
personality. I
again."
think it's personality,
And
and that
age.
Will is a Zoomer or Gen
Yes.
Z, so he just doesn't know
I think
yet.
there's a lot of
So no,
personality.
the first pictures were like I could see why you would want them retake. Like they were kind of sideways. The paper wasn't like just straight on. I've never taken a picture of the paper and like been just close up where it doesn't show like my legs or something. Never done that. So
Who
I'm like,
would
that's
wanna
not
see
what he's
your
talking
legs?
about. He's talking about that it's not straight. Like he's
We're
talking
about to
about the
pull these
paper's not
pictures
straight.
up.
Cool shoes.
No, he's talking.
right.
He's talking about the
We're about to
picture.
pull these pictures up.
He's talking about
but hey,
pictures
y'all
not
listen,
straight.
here's
And I
what we
take the
gotta do.
picture again and they're straight, and I'm like, they're fine. They're good.
That's the second picture.
Yikes.
That's not terrible.
That's the other one.
All right.
a good picture.
No,
here's
no,
what's
no, no,
good.
no.
Anytime.
What is
Crop
there?
it,
But wait,
crop
listen,
crop it
'cause-
to the
Yeah.
to the thing, and it'll show you a grid.
Like,
where
if you
it-
care.
where it lets you do.
Which
the,
is exactly what Micah asked. Can you take the picture where basically the paper is the only thing in the picture?
Yeah.
And if you can't, crop it.
All right. So here's
Well,
what
if you
you're
can't
hearing.
just read
Let's-
that, like,
let's-
who
let's
wouldn't
not
wanna see
get
my
lost.
legs?
Let's stay on
Let's not
topic.
get
Hey, you
lost.
could also
Hey,
download a PDF
but listen,
scanner and
stop
it'll scan.
telling them. Stop telling them how to fix pictures.
All
The
right.
podcast
we wanna
people
fix
don't care
them.
about it.
Okay, our next episode is going to be about
So-
scanning a PDF.
Y'all, I'm sorry. So we're not
this
going to
app
get
called
along.
Genius Scan.
And so Adam's going to have
what
to
I
cut
use.
some of this out. But listen, so back to the deal. Here's what's amazing. In that conflict example, there's viewpoints where Caleb, who is in a leadership position over Will, is trying to get Will
In life
to
and in
handle
work.
things in a more
really got me.
thorough, helpful manner. And so the struggle there is real. Will has opportunities to start listening and going, okay, there's something I can gain I don't know anything about here, instead of just insisting that it was fine. And then Caleb has the opportunity to continue to connect with Will at a more safe environment for
Yeah.
Will.
Yes, there is a safe environment
Because
there, too.
Caleb's natural response is similar to mine, which makes Will feel threatened. And Caleb feels disrespected because he knows you need to do it a certain way that you're not doing it.
My
And-
point was take the pictures, like focus on what you're doing.
For
If you're
long
taking
enough to-
pictures, take the pictures well. If you're building a ramp, build the
Build the
ramp
ramp well, yes.
If you're whatever you're doing, just do it well. Do it one time and do it well so that it doesn't have to be redone, so that we don't have to keep revisiting.
Which is a great life lesson.
It is.
It's a great life lesson.
But it's
here's
also
what
My
it is.
awareness, my awareness
Finish.
is starting to
Oh.
become a lot better.
I believe it.
Okay.
Well,
I believe
it's
it. So,
also
hey,
that
hey,
people
Barney,
challenge you
Between
at
your
work.
dad, me, and Caleb, you're about to be so developed. Jeff,
I have
By
other
20,
people-
you're going to be just amazing.
I have other people
I mean-
like pushing it at work, but like I'm definitely growing in awareness where I can like. One thing I'm growing in conflict is trying to like understand the other person's instead of like trying to make sure mine's heard, is understanding the person and then making
Good.
sure that they understand that I understand them.
Good.
And see, that's valuable in every
And that- and
relationship
I'm
you'll
not
ever
saying-
be
I'm not
in
saying-
life.
so like
I'm not
making
saying-
Eliana feel heard.
Yeah, I'm not saying to say that I'm perfect and she doesn't do that. I'm saying that I usually don't do that.
Yeah.
And you're getting better at
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So that is one thing that has helped a lot.
So you're
in
not
how
just a
I'm
pretty
growing.
face. You're a good guy.
Got a good heart. All right, so
Sweet
and all
boy.
of y'all do. So here's what's cool. Y'all have gotten some really cool and a very in-depth example of picture taking in a truck at work. All right, which is a great little just rubber meets the road, because the reality is all these relationships that we're in and all of our listeners or watchers are in, the little things over and over and over again throughout a day have to be handled in a healthy way, because if they're just shoved under the rug in essence or exploded on every time, then there's going to be a division of hearts between the two people that this is happening with. And so working that out, but staying engaged in the effort to reconnect and stay connected is how big is that, y'all?
Massive.
Mucho.
It is critical, isn't it?
I mean, the silent treatment is one of the most immature things that you can do. And I did it for a long time in my life, but it's a self-gratifying, passive-aggressive way to say I'm in control here. I'm not going to even speak to you. And that way doesn't work. And so finding a healthy way, like I used to look at Chris and go, well, he's loud, he's wrong, right? I'm the civilized one here.
You're being more mature.
I was being more mature. No, there were issues with the way that both of us were
Handling conflict.
addressing conflict and even trying to resolve conflict. And it was unhealthy for ourselves internally, and it was unhealthy in our relationship. And so being able to nail down, like, okay, what's the real issue here? Do I need to look at some things from my past that may be kind of exponentially influencing the issue? Like I've got this filter that I automatically see this issue through because of something that happened before. That needs to be resolved with the Holy Spirit. But then coming to the table, not guns already drawn, like you're always this, you're never this, but coming to the table to seek for unity in the relationship, which means I'm really gonna try to give up my right to be offended and hear where you're coming from, even if it means I have to take in some information from you. That's a healthy way to resolve conflict. It brings growth in the relationship. It brings spiritual growth, because it means that you have to turn to the Holy Spirit and the power of the Holy Spirit in your life to accomplish this,
Well,
right?
and the "you always" language
Oh, it's horrible.
is never the only
It's
time
never
the
good.
only time
It's
it's
never good.
always good to use that language is to say it's always good to not use that language
That's good.
in a fight.
That's
I
good.
mean, but even not in a marriage perspective. Like, I mean, we were able to have some serious conflict a couple months ago,
Yeah.
and like we've all, me and Caleb have been so mad at each other. But I mean, like us in particular, like us, Abby and I adapting to life with a baby, and like Chris and Sophie not feeling hurt on some things, and like we had a big blow up because like you're like, hey, we're gonna handle this. I mean, I'm like boohooing in the living room, like, I love you so much.
Yeah.
I love you. I just
Yeah.
don't want to upset my family.
But we needed to do what we
Yeah.
did.
needed to do it.
Yeah.
It was very important.
And I think we arrived at a common respect
100%.
and a way to
Yeah.
handle it going
And
forward.
we're still sitting here doing a podcast together. So
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's good. So the
That's a great example, too.
listeners watching, here's the cool dynamics. You're talking parent-child. You're talking sibling relationship. We're talking marriage relationship. And every listener has thought about people outside of their house where these same dynamics exist.
That's exactly right.
And so the mature way to handle somebody in conflict, it only takes one of the people in the game to start being, I'm responsible for every word I say, every thought I keep thinking, and every action I take. Even though they make me feel a certain way, I choose to say, do, not say, not do, and to keep thinking. And so if we can get an I'm responsible and we can put our heart back out there to the other human being and stay connected and seek connection
Put
to
your heart back
understand
out there.
them
That's good.
is a very, very important dynamic. And it produces health and can produce massive relational richness and strength.
And unity.
Yeah, and those
which is
things we
designed
want
for
we want
unity.
y'all to see that in this dynamic too, because we're bringing up these things and being real open and honest about them. This family encounters it. Every family is going to encounter it, and it doesn't mean that the family is dysfunctional. It's actually normal.
it's actually functional.
It's functional.
Yeah.
Yeah, the
Right.
dysfunction is not addressing
I,
it.
I don't know if this is something to address in this episode, but like
And then we'll end it after that.
yeah,
and
but
then
we
we'll-
talk about, you mentioned offense and like not being offendable and things like that, but like something you guys cover in your marriage ministry a lot is assigning motive to people.
yeah, that's
One of
so
my
good.
favorite things that we talk about in the small group is, people don't do things to you, they do things for themselves.
That's right.
And
Against
so
you,
like,
even.
yeah, right. They don't, so you're saying they don't do things against you.
They do
It's-
them
it's
for themselves, yeah.
So like, that's like such a important thing to be aware of with your spouse or with
This is a
your
game changer
family,
for me.
friends, literally anybody in your like coworker.
Yep.
Like, because you can just walk around offended and feeling like a victim, and you're assigning all of your motive to something that somebody else is doing, and they're not even thinking about you. Like
Yes,
you're not on
that's
their
so
you're not on
good.
their
Yes.
radar. So
So
why
good.
are you butthurt?
Right.
or offended?
Yeah.
Like,
So good.
Anyway,
Very powerful. So
This
hey,
might be my favorite episode we've ever done.
well,
Wow.
it has
I mean,
been fun because this is real. This is real stuff. What you want to say?
I just want to say, I think part of the reason we as a family are so close, a lot of it is a result of conflict.
That has been resolved.
That has-
Absolutely.
That has been resolved. Yeah.
That through God's power has been resolved and redeemed and
That's
stuff.
right. That's
Because
right.
there's a lot of families who are not close. They see each other, they're around each other, but they're not close. It's
s-
surface level because things that frustrate them they push aside. They're all passive. It's just they ignore things that should not be ignored. And for us, we've
Hashed
just
out.
been through it all,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
God's redeemed it all, and now we are experiencing
Richness.
the progress of unity.
well,
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
even like with my parents, like we struggled with some of that, like not dealing with stuff, and God's done massive redemption just in like the last year
Agree.
because
Yeah.
like we've addressed things, and then like I've committed to honoring them well and giving them the benefit of the doubt.
yeah,
and like,
it's so so important in a relationship.
and,
yeah.
and not like assuming the worst of them. Like, hey, I'm gonna do my best to honor you guys, and we're gonna talk about stuff when it needs to be talked about because it's
good.
exactly what it can just be so awkward because you're not dealing with all these problems that
Feel
that
that
everybody
way.
has.
There
under the
is no
surface.
surface level with this group. I mean, we we just bear it all
We're
really
gonna-
Or
quick.
it's
don't
like you're aware of things, like you've been through some really difficult stuff in your family, but nobody's ever talked about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody avoids the fact that that was a reality.
Yeah.
And like, and expressing how that hurt you, how that traumatized you, the impact that had on your life is so important.
It can be a
it's
life
healing.
changer.
Yeah, but it's
Yeah.
healing to
Right.
talk about
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
Big deal. So let us encourage you to do this. So what Caleb just hinted at, he said, so there's a lot of families maybe that stuff things, and really in most of those families there is the non-stuffer who gets to kind of run the whole show, and everybody else
And they're seen as
stuffs.
the lunatic.
And in our family,
sometimes.
you see that there's this
I'm the
dynamic. There's people in our family
what you said?
who.
Mom said it as I winked at you and said,
Oh, no.
Yeah. All right. So in this family, there were people that our family would be that kind of family. You
Yeah.
just heard that. There's people around this table that was stuffed, and there's people that would have always dominated the conversation. But over time, through the power of the Holy Spirit, the people that stuff don't stuff anymore, and the people that used to dominate in a very unhealthy way don't have to dominate anymore. We're all being heard, and that's so important. And it's the power of the Holy Spirit at
Yes,
work
that's right.
in lives, and He'll do this. If He did it in our family, He'll do it in anybody's family.
Yeah.
Yes,
So we
sir.
want to encourage
But
you
it
with
takes
hope.
surrender.
It takes that surrender,
And it's
it
messy.
takes sticking
messy.
your heart back out again and engaging and pursuing relationship with those that you care about. So do that. Trust Jesus. We're excited that we got to spend this time with you.
Yeah,
We're thrilled
so
about
much.
the next one, and we hope to see you on the next episode.
Yes.
Peace out.
We're happy you're here.
Peace out.